So this might be one of the most important videos I've ever made, at least to me, I think anyway. And what I want to do here is I want to talk about something that, well, in relation to my last Facebook post about maybe God is working to bring us up. We just lost John MacArthur, which, I mean, I wasn't the biggest John MacArthur fan, but it is the end of an era with John MacArthur. And then you have Charlie Kirk, which was a tragic case. And now, of course, Vodi Balcom. That one definitely hit home for me. I loved Vodi. He was such a great guy. And it's gonna be tough without him because I mean he still had so many years, that he obviously could have lent to the gospel. It still hasn't really quite hit me with Vodi, but just like Charlie Kirk, I feel like that still hasn't even really registered with me yet. It is just crazy that we're living in a world in which we're talking about the fact that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Things have changed, they really have changed. Today I had a few moments of just praying and stuff, right in the middle of work too. And that's just when it dawned on me, I just seeing a lot of posts about people saying things that, it's like the Lord is just taking away all our leaders and stuff, and like, what are we gonna do? And it just made me think, what if we're just looking at this all the wrong way? We're just sitting here lamenting that MacArthur's gone, Kirk is gone, Balcom's gone. I mean, all taken from us really fast. And what if this is, I mean, obviously this is a part of the Lord's plan, but maybe our thinking about it in a way of like, what are we going to do now is not the way we're supposed to look at this. Maybe we're supposed to be thinking about, man, I need to step up. I need to start getting out there. And when I say that, when I said that on a post, I want to explain exactly what I meant. I made a video yesterday on my way to a little workout session with the buddies. And I may have been a little bit frustrated. I didn't really, I was just venting. So obviously I haven't posted that. And this is the one I'm going to post instead. What if, but what I would like to say, that I wanted to say in that one post, is maybe I don't understand. I'll just say this. I don't understand, like, what I said in the video, and I'll say it here in a little bit more of a calm demeanor. I don't get Christians. As a Christian, I don't understand us. I find that Christians, we are some of the biggest hypocrites and some of the biggest cowards in America. Myself included. I don't want to exclude myself from this accusation. But what I mean by that is, I'm tired of, when I said that in the post, when I wasn't talking about continuing to rant on social media. I think social media is part of what's driving everybody crazy right now. I think we all just need a detox from social media. And I would say to all my Christian friends who may be watching this, maybe you need to step away from social media too. I'm on social media, sure. I look at some things, but I don't really comment on a lot of things. I just honestly think social media, it definitely has had an influence, and it has its purposes. It's definitely useful in many ways. But what I think a lot of us do as Christians, I think we're all sitting on social media, we're just absorbing all this stuff, and it just kind of we're just fattening ourselves with it, you know. It reminds me of the days when I was just drinking protein shakes like crazy, but I wasn't exercising, you know, and so I started getting a little heavy, um, a little chubby. Just had a lot of just gaining weight, but not really like exercising that weight that I was gaining, you know. There's definitely still room for improvements. I'm still a little pudgy around the edges, you know, but that's kind of what it's like. It's like we're just taking in stuff, but what are we doing with it? I saw a post today about another jab at pedo baptism, you know, and from somebody, and I'm just sitting there just going, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You guys, you go on social media and we just take shots at each other, fellow Christians. I'm just like, do you realize what's going on right now? I feel like there's more important things to worry about than whether or not you should baptize babies. I kind of think that there's a few things a little bit more important than that. And for me, I'm at the point where I'm just like, it's not that I don't find our disagreements something worth talking about, but there are just so many more important things right now. I mean, people are going after the Charlie Kirk Memorial, that there's a bunch of nonsense there. And like I was listening to Jeff Durbin and Luke the Bear talk about their experience at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And they said it was incredible. And they did say that there were things they were kind of like, yeah, it was kind of cringy here. It's like, that's not exactly the way I think this should be. But they understood that's just, look, guys, we're a Christian family, and the Christian family, we're all a bunch of weirdos. We're all just a bunch of weirdos. And you just got to learn to live with it, man. I mean, we just got to get used to it. Your brother in Christ is a weirdo. So are you. But you know what? You both love Christ. And I want us to show that to each other and to the world outside. We are missing an opportunity right now. There's truly an opportunity. One of my evangelist brothers, who I go downtown with here in San Antonio, he posted about, in our little group chat, people are asking him a lot more questions right now at downtown. He goes downtown more than I do. You know, he's a little bit more faithful than me. And he said that he's getting a lot of people asking questions about his shirts that he wears now, more than usual. People are starting to notice now, and maybe in a good way. And what I see we're still sitting on social media, and we're still just kind of just sucking in a bunch of information from this, you know, Christian influencer and that one and whatever. What's that doing? What is that doing, guys? How many of us are going to actually decide, you know what? I gotta get up and I gotta go. And what I mean by that is, who among you are willing to actually go to get off of social media and get right into your local communities and start doing something? How many of us are willing to do that? I'm just at this point where I'm really asking this question. You know, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination and just spending hours and hours and hours on 20 different angles of the assassination and trying to find out what really happened to Charlie Kirk, you know, where the shot really came from and who really killed him, and is Tyler Robinson a patsy? He's a patsy. It was Israel. It was blah, 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 blah. You know, it was, you know, Candace Owens is absolutely just gone off the rails, you know. I'll admit, look, I'll be honest with you. There are some weird things about it. Sure, yeah. But, you know, I keep thinking about, this is what I keep going back to. What would Charlie Kirk want you to do? Would Charlie Kirk want you to sit there for hours and hours watching a YouTube video on, shocking new video footage of Charlie Kirk's assassination, so you can absorb that, run on social media, and post it, and then go back to Netflix and chill or something like that? Is that what Charlie Kirk would want you to do? I don't think that's what he wants us to do. I don't think Charlie Kirk wants us to dwell on who did what to him. Charlie Kirk wanted to inspire a generation. It's like Batman in The Dark Knight. When he has to take care of a bunch of vigilantes who try to impersonate Batman in the beginning of the movie. Remember that? And then he tells Alfred, that's not exactly what I meant when I was trying to inspire people. I feel like that's kind of what Charlie Kirk, in a way, with a lot of people who are. I'm not trying to say that. There's a lot of people who are going on, who are kind of doing the campus thing, and that's great. I think that's awesome, cool. Let's keep doing that. But is that all Charlie Kirk wanted us to do? I kind of think that Charlie Kirk tried to inspire an entire generation to stand up for what they believe in and to stop believing in foolishness. Most of all, that they would come to a saving knowledge of Christ. And so how does sitting there on Charlie Kirk's being assassinated and whoever actually killed him, how does that do that? How does that spread the message of this? What I think is what's happening and what has been happening, and the reason why, I don't want to say that it's the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed, but I do sometimes wonder how many more conservatives have to die, have to be assassinated, have to be martyred before we, the Christian church, just wakes up and finally realizes we can no longer just sit and let Voddie Baucham and Charlie Kirk and all those guys, we can't just sit around and just let them do all the work and we just listen to their sermons and feel really good for a few minutes and then go back to our normal lives that just are just ordinary and whatever, and it's not to say that we're that the bad, like, I'm not trying to say that ordinary is like necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look, there's mothers who believe that their calling is to raise good children, and that's all they need to do, and that's all they want to do, and that's great. That's fine. I think that's perfectly great. But I think we as Christians are just too comfortable. I think the vast majority of us, it's just easier to go on social media and talk boldly on there than it is to actually go into a street corner in your city and be willing to look like a fool because you're preaching Christ to a dying culture, a dying society. But you understand that's what the apostles did. That's what the prophets did. It didn't matter to them whether people were going to receive the message, positively. People had to know. And so they did it. And I know this is true because I have friends on Facebook who go to the universities and they go to talk about abortion and talk about the gospel to people. You know how many of them are out there? Maybe 3, maybe 4, 5, just a handful of faithful Christians out there. Where's everybody else at? Where are all of you guys, all of you bold, Christians who talk all this great game on social media? Where are you guys? it seems like everybody is incredibly brave on social media, but in their where they're at, there's just, where are you guys? Where is everybody? And the truth is, it's just more convenient. It's more comfortable on social media. And this is something that I just get frustrated with. I continue to grow frustrated with. I get tired of hearing. I mean, no disrespect to my own fellow Christians in my own church. I love them a lot, but I'm getting tired of hearing about, we got to be faithful and be willing to step outside our comfort zones. I just kind of want to ask people, like, what do you mean by that? What does that look like? What does it look like to step outside your comfort zone? What's that look like? An overseas mission? And don't get me wrong, I appreciate people, I admire people who are willing to go overseas. That's definitely a huge leap of faith to go to a place that is so outside of your comfort zone over there and whatever. That's great, that's fine and all that. But sometimes I just think also at the same time, like, America is a mission field. I don't understand why we feel the need to go like overseas to do a mission. I mean, there's a mission field right here. I see it every other Saturday at least, because I go downtown and I try to share the gospel with people. I try to hand out tracts and stuff. I see it. It's there. But you know what? You know how many people join me and my guys when we go down there? 2 people. Just 2, sometimes 3. But that's it. Where are all the Christians? Where is everybody? The Black Hebrew Israelites, they get a whole group across the street. They're just spewing hatred. And they're out there every single Saturday. Now, I don't think that they're actually getting a whole lot of followers, to be honest with you. I find a lot of people don't like the things that they say. But nevertheless, they're out there. I look at Mormon missionaries who are going door to door, Jehovah's Witnesses who go out there, and they go door to door sometimes, but sometimes they're out there downtown. They got their little stand with their material and little pamphlets, whatever, and they just sit there and they do their time and whatever. And I look at these people and I just go, at least they're sending their people out. What about us? What about the actual Christians? It's the heretics who are going out there, not us. We're just kind of sitting around at home and pondering some theological truth and arguing it with other Christians. That's all we're doing. Either that, or we're listening to the latest in politics. We're listening to the latest conspiracy theory on Charlie Kirk's assassination. And then we just suck it up and we think about it and we get all mad and we start saying stuff on social media, and then we just go back to, just sipping our coffees while we just scroll on social media. And that's it. Is that really making a difference? I don't think it is. And I'm just tired of seeing that. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I'm just tired of being a part of that. I don't think that that's what the Lord has called me to do. Maybe that's what you feel like you're called to do. I think the Lord wanted more for us. He wants more from us. I think Charlie wanted more from us. Charlie was just trying to be an example to each and every single one of us, that you can go out there and you can show that these leftist lies are just dumb and stupid, and also to show that you're not going to change the world by being super nice to people. I don't know about you, and maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but I've never had anybody ever in my entire life just out of the blue say, Chase, there's something different about you. I've never had that. And again, it's because I'm just doing it wrong. I don't know, but that never happens. The only time I ever get a really good conversation with somebody is when I'm actually saying stuff to them. I'm actually saying scripture to them. And I'm willing to tell them that they are a sinner and they're going to stand before God. And in order to get past the judgment, they must be in Christ. And then explaining what that looks like, what that means. But see, I don't think a lot of us want to do that because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to tell somebody that they are a sinner because people don't like when you say stuff like that to them. But the thing is, guys, as I have learned, the reason why we don't do stuff like that, it's selfish. It's self-preservation because we want people to like us. We don't want to put ourselves in an uncomfortable position. My buddy Troy told me this one time. He said, the only reason, there's only one reason that you don't step out in faith like that. Self-preservation. That's the only reason. There's no other reason why. And I'm not trying to say this because I'm trying to be a mean guy, and trying to, whatever, not trying to beat you over the head. But it's the truth. And I say that because I want to see, honestly, think about this. What do you think would happen if just here in San Antonio, or just in any city, any major city, what do you think would happen if just 10%? I remember one guy when we were at the abortion clinic one time. One of the guys I was up there with, I haven't seen him since that clinic shut down, but that was years ago. He told me, he said, if just 10% of all the Christians in San Antonio were out here, he said this sidewalk would just be going all the way down there, around the corner, surrounding the whole block. If just 10%. Imagine if just 10% of Christians decided that they were going to take a day in like a Saturday in which they were going to be able to just kind of, kick back and relax or whatever, and decided to give that time up, to sacrifice that time to go and try to reach people with the gospel, to be a light unto the world around them like they're commanded to be. Imagine if just 10% of the Christians in every single city of America did that. You would see significant change. But we don't do that. We're not going to do that because of self-preservation. Because it's easy to talk about being faithful, especially when it's just like, just not cursing at the guy who cut you off or whatever, on the road. I was faithful that day because I didn't get angry and curse at that guy, whatever. So whatever, little things like that. And those are our stories of being faithful. And I know I'm being very, I'm sounding very condescending and rude, but I'm just like, man, dude, like, I say this because having done stuff, actually gone out there with the gospel and talked to strangers with it, I walked away from those I felt so amazing. Like, it's just an incredible feeling. And of course, you're always going to think, man, I messed up here. I should have said this, should have said that. But you're also going to be like, dude, I got to share the gospel with somebody. And I'm just so happy. You just want to go and do it again. You just want to, and again and again and again. There's no feeling like it. And you're never going to know that feeling. I can never, it's like going to see the Grand Canyon. I just can't explain to you what it's like. You just got to go see it. It's the same thing with evangelism. I can't explain to you the joy that you feel. And you're just going to be like, man, why wasn't I doing this a long time ago? I should have been doing this a long time ago. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, I got into this whole thing, is because I was just like taking in a bunch of theological knowledge, the triunity of God and things like that, what soteriology is and all this blah, 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 blah. I was just sucking in all this knowledge, but I wasn't doing anything with it. I was just arguing about it with other Christians on Facebook. That's all I was doing with it. got to a point where I was just like, yeah, I just feel like that this is not a good use of this information that I'm getting. And then I started going out to doing evangelism with some guys here in San Antonio. And it just changed my perspective on all this stuff. It made me just stop going into these Facebook groups and just arguing with people endlessly. And especially after Charlie Kirk, I just feel like, man, I'm just totally done with it. I'm just not doing it anymore. I find that social media makes us more anxious, aggravated. We don't listen as well on social media. It's very different than when you're actually talking to someone face to face. It has a much more personal impact on somebody. I just want to encourage you to consider that. Maybe I'll ask it this way. What would you do if all your favorite Christian leaders that you listen to on YouTube and sermon audio or whatever you listen to them on your podcasts, if there was a rapture, but the rapture was all your favorite Christian leaders, and they all were just gone in an instant, all of them just poof, went into thin air, what would you do? What would you do? I mean, you look at the apostles, right? I mean, their leader. I mean, he was gone. You know, one day he was here, the next day he was gone. What do you think they did? They just go, oh man, that sucks. Man, he was our guy, and now he's gone. And you know, I guess the best thing we can do is just kind of talk to each other about when he said this, when he said, no, that's not what they did. I mean, you can even read it, right? What does the angel tell them after Jesus ascends into heaven? What are you guys still standing around here for? Go. It's almost like one of those scenarios, you know, just what would we do if all of if not just Vody, if not just Charlie, if not just MacArthur, but if all of them just suddenly vanished? What's going to happen to us? What would you do? You don't have them anymore. I mean, seriously, ask yourself that. Ask yourself, your most influential Christian leaders just gone. It's the same thing as like if we were, you know, if our parents suddenly, and no disrespect to those who have already lost their parents, I don't, you know, but just if our parents just suddenly were gone, that does happen. That's happened to people before, right? I mean, obviously, yeah. Your parents just like that, gone. They can't just sit there and just wallow and wish it was different. They got to get up and they got to go. And it's up to them now. They've got to do it. And for us, we're just, you know, what are we going to do now? You know, this is, you know, whatever. Get out there. That's what Vody would want you to do. You think Vody was just preaching to people so that just to give them a spiritual high for a few days at some conference he was at, and he would preach the gospel so they can, you know, just get the spiritual high and then just go home? And because that's a lot of times what happens, obviously. Because if it was the opposite, I mean, things would be a lot different in the world today, in America. People would go home and be like, oh my gosh, this message, it's got to get out there. I mean, what he preached to me just absolutely lit me on fire. It's time to get out there, guys, and go. How many of us actually do that? I'm certain not a lot of us, because if it really did do that to the vast majority of people who went to those conferences, there'd be Christians all over the place preaching the gospel on all these corners everywhere in our cities, but they're not. And for me, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of of being part of that. Um, I'm since Charlie Kirk especially, and now Vody, I'm just like, man, I gotta, I'm ready to get back out there and just start really like more than ever sharing Christ with people around me. Um, and I want that for you too. I want you to just suddenly decide, you know what, this whole social media stuff. Again, there's not that social media is altogether bad. It's useful, but we're just chronically on social media, um, to the point where it has replaced reality for us. It's just easier to deal with reality on social media than it is in actual reality. And I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that's good at all. I think it's time that we just decide, you know what? Enough of this. Let's get up and let's go. So I just wanted to say something about that. Um, so I pray, my prayer is that the Lord, I was going to read something from scripture here, from Exodus. I'll just mention it here real quickly here. In Exodus chapter 3, when God calls Moses to go to Egypt. I mean, think about that. But really try to put yourself in Moses' shoes. Because you see Moses, he makes excuses, right? He's like, I'm not a good speaker, blah, blah, blah. And he just starts making excuses. Moses just he just fled Egypt. And he finds a home. He gets married. And he settles down, basically. And he's living a really nice life. He's just like a shepherd. And he's just living the most relaxed life. And you got to believe that this is how Moses wanted his days to go for the rest of his life. Just an easy, man. I don't got to worry about all the crazy politics of these empires anymore. And I'm happy with this, man. Everything's nice and easy, nice and comfortable for me. I got my home, I got my wife, maybe a few kids. I don't remember, but got my family. I got my nice job. It's a steady job, and providing whatever. I got my nice big screen TV, and just I can watch whatever I want. So I got my internet, and I got all this. It's just nice and comfy, and just can I just cruise through life here? And then boom, the burning bush happens. I think that is gravely overlooked as to one of the reasons why Moses didn't want to go, is because God was calling Moses. After Moses just got nice and settled down, God just telling, nope. You see all this nice, comfy stuff? Yeah, that's gone. Hope you enjoyed it while it lasts, Moses. Because now, life's getting crazy. And what if that's what's being called of you? And theoretically, Moses could have just, let's just pretend like Moses, that he didn't go. He just decided, no. It's just, you got to pick someone else, Lord. I'm not your guy, and he just doesn't go. Well, fine then. But when you look at the story of Israel and everything that they went through, what God used, what God did for them, you're missing out on a lot of great things, a lot of wonderful things. Yeah, there's a lot of heartache in it, of course, but that's the thing. That's the thing I learned this last weekend when I went to my boss's house over the weekend. I didn't want to go at all. I didn't want to go. Because I like having my weekends. I like just chilling out on the weekends. A long 5 days of work. I just want to relax and do a couple of things that I want to do. Maybe do some of my own chores that I got to do. I got to catch up on and whatever. And just be left alone. I didn't get any of that last weekend. I was working through the entire weekend, even Sunday. And that's, I hate doing that. I don't ever want to do that again. But I did. But you know what? You know what I got though? In the midst of all of that, my boss we were at his lake house. He took me out on one of his boat rides. We went out there twice. Man, it was awesome. That was awesome. And to think that I was gonna just sit at home and just meander about and doing a few little chores here and there and miss this. I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. This is actually pretty nice. I really liked this. See, this is the thing. I remember waking up Sunday morning knowing we had a bunch of more chores to do. But you know what? You know what was pushing me to really want to do it and get it done as fast as I could? We're going to get back on that boat and we're going to go back out on that lake and just, oh boy, what a ride. And we did, and it was a beautiful day. It was just, it was great. And I loved it. It was awesome. And that's the thing. There's those little nuggets, those little moments of just pure bliss and joy. It's almost like a little piece of eternity. It's settled there with you. It's like the Lord is rewarding you for your faithfulness. You stepped out in faith. I'm not trying to say me going to my boss's house, whatever it was, me stepping out in faith. That's not, what I'm saying is that when we do stuff, when we step outside our comfort zones, we would be surprised at what the Lord does for us. He has something so much more, so much better. And if you're sitting around and you're just wondering, why in the world, I can't get anything great happening in my life. Maybe it's because you're not stepping out in faith. You're just sitting in your little comfort zone and you're just not doing anything. You read your Bible, sure. You pray, you go to church, but what else? You go to work, okay. Even work at a certain point becomes a mundane thing. Again, Moses, it just becomes a mundane thing, and then the Lord just spun his world around. I think we're just missing out on something wonderful. And when we read about the apostles in Acts, for instance, I mean, they went through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, great discomforts, but they were looking ahead. You know, it's almost just like when I woke up that Sunday morning, last Sunday, and I wanted to get to work because I knew when we finished, we're gonna get on that boat again, and we're gonna go out on that lake, and we're gonna have a fun time. In other words, I was willing to endure all of this heartache and this pain and this struggle because I knew there was a reward at the end, something worth it. I'm reminded of Jesus in Hebrews chapter 12, chapter 12 verses, let me read it real quickly here, and then I'll close this out. This is one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible. Hebrews chapter 12, starting in verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Guys, this is why suffering, right here, this is why. We keep asking, what's the point of suffering? Because we are living in a fallen world. And in order to find those precious gems, those priceless gems, we have to go through the fire. We've got to go through it. And Christians right now, all of us, as a whole, because there are some who aren't, who are definitely stepping out in faith, but as a majority of Christians, we're trying so hard to avoid the suffering. We talk about it. We talk about, we got to endure suffering. And we think enduring suffering is like depression, being depressed about things not being so fortunate in our lives. I just think that's just I'm going to be honest with you, I just think a lot of that's just a hunk of crap. That's just you, that most of that is just you and me crying wolf, crying over spilled milk. In reality, it's because we're not willing to step out in faith. But you have Jesus here as our prime example. Jesus was looking beyond the cross. You want to know why he was able to endure that cross? It's not just because he was God in the flesh. We always just think it's just, well, he's God in the flesh, of course. And that so overlooks his humanity. Jesus was looking beyond the cross because he knew beyond this is glory. Beyond this is salvation for mankind, for the world. And that joy, that's the joy that he's talking about right here. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. He's despised the shame and is now seated at the right hand of God. That's our example, guys. Ask yourself this question. I want you to ask yourself, what is your cross? Don't tell me my cross is, being alone, whatever, but that's not, don't give me that crap. Seriously think about, what is your cross to bear? There's a guy on my Facebook right now, and he's like obsessing over this girl that he really wants to be with. He's been writing these huge long posts, and it's just frankly unhealthy for him about how he's sure that this is the woman for him, but for some reason she's not. She won't answer his post or whatever it is, his attempts. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's because you're being a bit of a creep. Look, she told you no. Apparently she told you no. She's ghosted you. I've been ghosted before. It sucks. It's not fun. It is what it is, man. The door has closed. That's not enduring your cross, okay? That is just you not accepting that the door has been closed, okay? You need to get up and you need to get moving. Find a local church, get plugged in, figure out what they're doing, what are some of their ministries that you can get involved with that they don't have. If all their ministries, like, I would hope they have a ministry that's actually an outreach ministry. We have one at our church, thankfully. It's been put together by me and a couple of the other guys, and I really want more people to join us. But get involved, get active, get going. That's when you're bearing a cross. So anyways, I'm just praying that God would give you boldness. And I don't pray for bravery, because it's not about being brave. It's about being bold and courageous. I want you to be afraid. I want you to be scared. I want you to be anxious, because the more anxious you are, the more scared you are, the more you rely on the Spirit of God, that you really realize I'm terrible. I'm the worst for this. Like Moses, right? I'm the worst for this, but I'm gonna drive right in there, and I'm just gonna go in faith. Guys, that is being faithful. That is being faithful. So, Soli Deo Gloria. God bless. Bye.